What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Six. DJ and Bucky with you. No Rhett today. He's got like a power issue, Buck. I guess they said that's like they got to cut the power because of fire issues. I don't know if I believe it, but anyways, we wish Rhett all the best. How you doing?
I'm good. No PBU, but like I was going to share this to Rhett. So I was watching. I was in Pittsburgh for the Jags game against the Steelers. I'm at the bar. I'm watching Penn State in Indiana, and lo and behold, it turned out to be like a
close game,
heavyweight fight, going back and forth. And so I was looking forward to hearing PBU's thoughts on how his team just came up short because they were in the game the entire game. It was back and forth affair. It was a really good game, but it was kind of funny watching it in a very Penn State heavy environment.
Oh, I can imagine. Absolutely. You were at a big game. We're going to get to that one second here, but we're going to lead off not with the game I was at because that was kind of a clunker. With the Chargers and the Bears. But to me, I thought the story of the day, the game of the day, was the Cincinnati Bengals, what they did to the 49ers. And if you recall, a few weeks ago, I remember we said, man, if the Bengals can get to 500 and get to the bye, I know you can look at this schedule like, I don't know, man. They come out, they got the Niners and the Bills. And I'm like, hold on now. If they can just get to 500 and then you get Burrow rested and healthy and you bring him back, there's no team that they're scared of. Like when he's healthy, when that dude's healthy, like what did he say? The window is my career. Like that.
Yes.
And that was quintessential Joe Burrow right there. He carved them up like a Thanksgiving turkey. And that's a good defense.
Yeah. He not only carved them up, but he ran around a little bit, made some plays, and
3 third down conversions with his legs.
I mean, you talk about a team that feeds off the swag off their quarterback. This is a team that feeds off of all that competitive energy that he brings. And for the Bengals, I mean, there's something about DJ when you have that championship level experience, even though they came up short in the Super Bowl, but they played playoff games, they played meaningful games, they knocked off top teams. They're not worried about the Niners and all that other stuff. And they played with like a team that wasn't worried about the awe factor that sometimes the Niners have. Because let's be honest, I've been around teams where the Niners' reputation as a physical team precedes their arrival. And so you talk about how physical they are. You talk about, hey, we got to get ready for that. The Bengals didn't seem bothered by that at all. And, their defense, Lou Anarumo continues to do a great job of getting it done. And early in the year, you talk about them getting to 500 because of Joe Burrow's injuries. I thought they just needed to kind of wait for the young guys to kind of assimilate into his scheme. Remember, they lost 3 starters, Eli Apple, Von Bell, Jesse Bates in the secondary. So 60% of your secondary, because I'm saying they play a nickel front, they're gone. So you got these young guys coming in, Dax Hill and these other guys coming in, and it took them a while to settle in. But now they're settling in, and they're beginning to play this type of defense that we've seen for years from the Bengals.
They're really good at linebacker. Hendrickson is playing elite level coming off the edge. Here's my question. I was just thinking about this, and I know the Miami Dolphins, the high-flying Miami Dolphins. I'll phrase it to you this way. Is there a team that can cause more problems with the different things they can do offensively? Because Joe's going to run more than Tua. You saw that with Joe healthy. I mean, he had 3rd and 9 early in the game. Hufunga's got a clean run on him. He just makes him miss and picks up a first down. So he had three of those runs. I think 4 that ended up in first down, a 2nd 9, a 2nd 6, a 2nd 1. And you add that element, plus you've got the screen game. You've got 3, like Miami's got the 2 dudes. They've got 3 dudes that they can get going in the passing game. So you got the screen game. You got that. You got a quarterback. You can move the pocket. He can run. I feel like is there a team that gives you more to worry about is what I'm getting at than what they do?
They can do a lot of things. And DJ, you talked about all the stuff, and they haven't even got Joe Mixon really going. We saw flashes and glimpses of him, but they still have the power running game if they want to lean back into it. And as Zach Taylor kind of continues to find the identity of this team or reestablish the identity of this team, you're right. They're so multiple on offense. They can create a bunch of problems. But to me, their secret sauce in winning is their defense. As much as they can do offensively, the multiplicity of what they do offensively, they do the same thing on defense. I mean, they are a sound defense. They can change the picture. They can go from cover 0 to regular traditional zones to zone dogging to man blitzing. They can do all those things. They have it all in the package. And so it is a team that they're in a tough division. But if they kind of find their way into the tournament, not a lot of teams want to see them. That's not a team that you want to be on your line. Like, oh, that's all right. We have the Bengals. Yeah. Not too much experience.
that was a wake-up call. And they got the Bills next, so that'll be a big one. A big matchup between the Bengals and the Bills. Always good when those teams get together. How about the other side, though, the Niners? I mean, this is 3 in a row now. And the Brock Purdy stuff, that noise, that chatter's getting a little louder. Just your take on that one.
It is getting a little louder. And for the first time, I can see it impacting Brock Purdy. I feel like he's playing outside of himself a little bit. I happened to catch like the second half at the airport, and I'm looking at him throw interceptions on back-to-back plays. And I'm talking about like bad interceptions, like where you're like, Bright, you don't need to force that. Like, what are we doing? Like, you've been so good for so long because you know your game. You know where that line is in terms of like my risk taking. I can go this, and I feel like he's trying to do too much. And I don't know why he's trying to do too much. I don't know what it is. Like, obviously, everyone hears everything. Is he trying to prove to people that he's a franchise guy as opposed to keep playing? But he's turned the ball over more in the last 3 games than we've ever seen him. I mean, DJ, he's turning it over. And that's the one thing that we used to appreciate about him. He took care of it. I mean, whether you called him a game manager or those things, he took care of the ball. And so that was something that was very appealing about him being the starting quarterback.
Yeah, Nabil just put it in the chat there. 3 touchdowns, 5 picks in the last 3 games. I would just say, and Buck, you've got the track background. So, you talk about a negative split, right? You're going to run that. If you're on the 800, that second lap faster than the first. They're not a negative split team. They have to get out to a big lead, and then they need to kind of cruise on that second lap. They're not built to play from behind, man.
No, they're not built to play from behind because their passing game is all play action passing. And so when you're behind, and if you're behind by a significant margin of maybe a touchdown or more, well, now I'm ignoring the run. You're not going to run your way back into the game with 17 minutes left. Like, it takes too long for you to score points running and running and running. We're ignoring that. So now we're sitting back. And DJ, one of the reasons why we talked about Kyle Shanahan being the quarterback whisperer is because his things were so easy for the quarterback to decipher. Well, it's really easy to make these 2 and 3 man routes available to the quarterback when you're play action faking everything. So now the linebackers up there, these huge voids from 5 to 15 yards where these guys can sit down in space. When you take the running game out of it, and guys are playing coverage, they got more guys in coverage than you have available in the options of the route. And without moving the second level with play fakes, now you got to make tight window throws. And we saw Brock Purdy doesn't have the arm talent to make the throws that Mahomes and Josh Allen and some of these elite talents can make from the quarterback spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think he did some good things at the end. Talk about them not being a team really to play from behind. He made some nice throws and kind of extending plays and moving the pocket. And look, they get Trent Williams back. They get Debo back. They'll be better. So, I mean, I'm not saying this is the end for Brock Purdy. It's a little bit of a hiccup, which is to be expected. This game's hard. This league's good. You're not going to have a smooth ride all the way through. He had a smooth ride for a long time, and now he's got some adversity. But, the thing about him is we might wonder about the elite high-end traits, but there's no wonder or worry about the makeup and the resolve with him. Like he'll get going. He'll bounce back. That's a really good Bengals team coming off of a bye. So I don't want to get too carried away with that one.
Yeah, no, I think all quarterbacks have to go through this. And DJ, I mean, however many games he's into his tenure, he's still not a full 16 or 17 game starter. Like when the film starts circulating around the league and you have to begin to deal with some of the adaptations and some of the changes that these teams will make, that's when you really get a chance to see. Now we'll have an opportunity to see how does he counter the counters, meaning how does he adapt to the tactics that he's getting that people are using to take away the things that he's been good at for so long as a starter for the Niners. How he bounces back and responds will ultimately determine whether the Niners can get back to playing at a high level. I expect him to get back to that. He and his coach, they'll figure out what teams are doing. But it's a lot of stuff that's going on. They got to do a better job of, you talked about their recipe, playing from in front. Shanahan is more pressured. Those openers, those scripts, they got to figure out how to win.
Get sevens early.
And it's funny because going back to my time when I was playing against his dad's Denver Broncos teams, we always said they played to get 14 points in the first quarter. Because when they were ahead, they had Greg Robinson doing wacky stuff on defense, but that's how they won games. They always played from in front. And so it's a great observation by you. And it was reminding me like, oh yeah, like That's kind of the basis of the Shanahan system. Get up early so they can run it when they want to, and then
people
that
said it
allows the
about
explosive
Kubiak.
plays.
People said it about Kubiak with the Texans when he was there as a head. Obviously, Kubiak played for Mike Shanahan. It's that offense, and that was the same. That was kind of his thing, man. If they get on you, like they can, you got Schaub's play action, and now they're going to wear you out.
Because they're up
Foster
now.
And those dudes.
Now you're gearing up for the running game. So now when Schaub throws it, they're up. They're throwing explosive plays, stretching the lead out as opposed to trying to gain ground. Great observation.
By the way, is that the comp for Brock Purdy?
Might be. It might.
I've never thought. I never even. It's literally. I just came. I'm just thinking out loud here. Matt Schaub put up some big numbers in that Houston offense. Andre Johnson company.
Yeah, like physically, they're not the same. But that's a great observation. He was a perfect point guard for what they had. They had everybody, man. Who was the big receiver they had? Was it Kevin Walter? They went opposite Andre Johnson.
Yeah. The big white dude, right?
Had two big wide receivers. Had tight ends galore that they would come in there. Owen Daniels and all those guys, and the play action passing game, and Arian Foster running for a bunch of yards. That's a good observation because they did have all the weapons around Matt Schaub, and Matt Schaub was going for 1 million yards. I think it was a 2-time Pro Bowler in Houston. Brock Purdy
back when 4,000 yards was the number. Yeah,
and Brock Purdy could be on a similar plight, even though their games aren't the same. But yes, they're very, very similar in terms of style of play and what you did in terms of managing them and managing how they were able to have success.
All right. How about the game you were at? Jags, man, that's another big win. The Jags are rolling, man. 20-10 over the Steelers on the road.
Yeah, DJ, this is funny. So, like for me, and when you're close to a team, like you kind of learn the ins and outs, the inner working of the team. And the funny thing for me is, and I think a lot of coaches and personnel guys, we all struggle with this: preseason expectations versus regular season realities. So the preseason expectation. This team was going to be a lighted up offense. Hey, man, they're going to put 40 burgers on everybody. Who's going to stop Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram and this stuff? And that was the expectation the first 2 or 3 games. But when they stumbled out the gate offensively, trying to find their identity, couldn't get it going, had to start running the ball with Travis Etienne, a funny thing happened. The defense started playing well. DJ, this defense leads the league in takeaways. They have 18 takeaways.
How about that?
18 takeaways. And it's a continuation of what they did last year. Like last year, they lived off the takeaways at the end. The other thing outside of takeaways, the toughness and the tenacity that this team is suddenly showing is kind of their identity. So part of the reason, and I'll say this, they haven't told me this directly, but it's the sense that I got being around it. Part of the reason they took Trayvon Walker at number 1 overall, when you look at the Jaguars play on early downs, they play a 5-man front. It's kind of like a hybrid bear defense, right? So they have Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen lined out wide, but they're kind of in that wide 9, but in an upright stance looking in. Yeah. One of the reasons why they wanted Trayvon Walker is they wanted him to absolutely beat up tight ends and beat up the edge defenders so they could eliminate the running game.
Yeah.
So a lot of our focus at number 1 is always like, sacks. They don't give up yards on the ground, DJ. I think the Steelers had maybe 70 yards or whatever they had on there. It was nothing. And so what they're able to do is they're able to stop the run. They force into a one-dimensional game plan, and then they're playing zone and coverage and getting tips and overthrows and all those other things, and they're catching them. And so this team has become kind of a team that embraces the bully ball persona, the mentality, and then it's kind of filtering into their defense. Because when I talked to the O-line after the game, they talked about, we're not going to let opponents bully us. Like when people talk about, we're going to bully them, the physicality thing is never going to be in question. And so a team that was expected, in my mind, to be a little more finesse has become far more physical and far more complementary in their style in terms of how they win games. They are a complementary football team with the defense setting up the offense and the special team setting up both facets to win games.
I'm curious on just like the get off the bus factor. Obviously, Trayvon Walker, Josh Allen, both 6'5", big dudes, secondary big guys. You feel like every week, we go down there, you're on the field, so you see it in warmups every week. The Jaguars just look like a big team compared to other people you're looking at every week.
Absolutely, the front seven. Yeah. The front seven looks like DJ. And look, I will give Trent Baalke credit for this. If you think back to those old 49ers teams when he and Harbaugh were there, Remember how they
Alden
look get off the
Smith
bus?
and
I
Justin
mean,
Smith,
just I
Patrick
mean,
Willis,
and
Navarro
and
Bowman. Yeah.
and it's a continuation of like Bill Parcells and Nick Saban. They've all said this. Like, there's a reason why there are weight classes in boxing. And if
Yeah.
you have a big physical team, the cumulative effect of those guys beating on you down after down after down, they wear out those smaller teams. And they do that. The one aspect where they can increase the size in the secondary, because you have Tyson Campbell, Andre Cisco
Yeah.
now is huge.
Yeah.
Rayshon Jenkins, he's a
He's a big
bigger.
dude. Yeah.
So they have that where they're putting it in place. But you're right, they look the part, and because they look the part, they're embracing a little more of the physicality, the grittiness, the grinded out nature. And it's surprising because offensively, you would think that there would be a finesse team with all the receivers and playmakers, but they're beginning to kind of have that style on offense to match what they do on defense.
Take away on the Steelers from what you saw from them.
The margin for error is so small for the Steelers because of their offense. They can't score. And so
No.
what it does is it puts a lot of pressure on their defense to not necessarily have to play a perfect game. But it's funny because Doug Peterson told me this. I think the Steelers, when they hold opponents under 22 points, they might be like 25-5 or some ridiculous number.
Yeah.
But DJ, in the National Football League, like that's holding people to it's hard. And so they just don't have the wiggle room where they can't have a stinker game on defense. They have to play at an A level all the time because they just can't generate points. Kenny Pickett went out the game at the end of the first half. Mitch Trubisky had to come in, and they just couldn't utilize their weapons. George Pickens is real. He only had one catch, though. I mean, he looks the part. He did a great warm-up routine. Watching him, just watching him, like I loved how meticulous he was. He just didn't get many opportunities, but the one that he did, he catches it, hurdles the defender, goes and scores. They just have to figure out a way to make sure their top players, George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, whoever they decide is the guy in the backfield, whether it's Najee Harris or Warren, they got to make sure that those guys get enough touches to have an impact on the game. That has to be the focal point. I love the plays, but the players need to make sure that they are having a major impact by making sure you get them enough touches.
Yeah. Well, it's not an easy watch with their offense. And I know Matt Canada catches a lot of grief there. Pickett got hurt in this game. Trubisky wasn't much better. So we'll see what happens there with the Steelers. I'll go quickly through my game. I was at the Chargers and the Bears game. This Sunday nighter, it was a game where the Chargers were in control early, never really relinquished. They had some big stops on fourth down. Tyson Bagent hit a big throw, 41 yards, first play of the game, and I'm sitting there thinking like, oh, they might get going a little bit here with the rookie, and then they kind of shut that down. Herbert, they came out chucking it, 31 of 40. He ended up with just under 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, but gosh, he had like 220 or something like that in the first half. Austin Eckler finally got back involved in the passing game. Screen touchdown. He had 7 for 94. And Quentin Johnston finally got some balls. It's interesting. That will be my takeaway here with Quentin Johnston. A lot has been made about that pick and how he hasn't done anything, and all these other rookie receivers are playing well. And it's not. I'm on record. Where my thoughts were on Jordan Addison and some of those other guys, but they got to figure out how to use him. And I think sometimes you can be typecast because of your body type. Like you look at him. He must be a 50-50 guy. Like that's not who he is. He is a slant, run after catch, pitch him, get him a quick hitter, or he is an over the top home run ball. I'm talking posts, goes, deep overs. Like that's his game. 50-50 balls. They threw him one in this one. It didn't come down with it. He hasn't really come down with those this year, but he's caught some back shoulders, things like that. Sometimes I think it's an adjustment, not just for the player. Sometimes I think it's an adjustment for the staff of kind of learning the player and what he is. And he can't go off typecast of just what they look like.
Yeah, that's a good observation. DJ, when you go back in his background, I think he was a big-time high jumper. So part of the reason that you may assume that if you're coaching, you sat in those meetings and all you heard the scouts talk about was, oh, this is a great athlete. He got this track and field background. He's this great leaper. So naturally your mind is, oh, well, we're going to put him in one-on-one situations. We're going to let him go get the ball off the top of the backboard. He's going to make all these plays. He's going to expand the strike zone for Herbert. But then what you're saying is really what how he was utilized at TCU. Yeah. They utilized him coming across the field horizontally on those short crosses, and he's gone. They have to figure out within their offense a way to really unlock him. I think that's the hardest thing about the play caller is not only do you have this these series of plays that you like, but you have to kind of tailor it to some of the personnel that you have. And you have to be able to put them in the right spots to run the routes that are best for them while also staying within the framework of what you want to do offensively.
Yeah, and I'll say this: that Bears team is not talented. I mean, they are 10 players away from being 10 players away. I mean, they have not a lot going on there. They're not good on the offensive line. They're not good on the defensive line. DJ Moore's a stud. Like that's their guy. But I mean, this is not a quarterback away. Obviously they're going to be in a position more than likely with their pick as well as owning the Panthers pick. They're going to have a chance to go in that direction if they want to move on from Justin Fields. But man, they got major work to do on this roster.
And I know we're up against it, but quickly, is there any thought? And this is me asking you without even knowing what the draft class looks like yet.
Yeah.
You talk about them not being a quarterback away. Is there any way that you could use those 2 picks on something that's a marquee position that's not a quarterback? Can you use it on a front?
I think one of them. I think you're going to have to commit. You have to commit to a quarterback, and I think you're going to have to take one of them. My thing. Everybody talks about the perfect draft for them is they're going to get the quarterback and then Marvin Harrison, or the quarterback and then Fashanu. I'm like, no. It's a quarterback and then trade whatever that other pick is. You got to amass a bunch of picks. That's got to be a lottery ticket. Hopefully you have 2 top 5 picks. The first one you get the quarterback. The second one you auction that thing off to the highest bidder because you need a lot of help.
Okay, we need a Thanksgiving Day trade. Meaning
yes,
we need the turkey to become turkey sandwiches. Then we need to become turkey stew. We just need to keep chopping it up so it becomes a 5-day meal as opposed to just a holiday meal.
100%. All right, let's get one more game in before we take a quick break. Titans, Falcons. How about Will Levis, man? 19 of 29, 238, 4 touchdowns. I mean, he was 3 of the 4 touchdowns were over 30 yards. They were home run balls. And I do want to give us a little bit of credit here because I believe it was last week where we lobbied and said, just let Will Levis play. Like, let's go. Just put him out there and let's see what happens. We know what Tannehill is. I thought it was the little bit that we had a chance to see with Malik. I thought, okay, Malik, that's further away. Will Levis has experience. He's played an NFL offense. He arrived kind of ready to go. Get him out there and see what you have.
Man, this is a great lesson. And here's I want to make sure everyone hears me because it's not about issuing an apology to Will Levis. I think sometimes what happens, DJ, when we do so many different shows, whether it's podcasts or TV shows where we're talking about Will Levis and we're talking about the draft and we're talking about who should be in a top 10 pick and those things, sometimes opinions can make it where you hate the player. It's not, I never necessarily hated Will Levis. I think what it was is you're trying to figure out.
You don't ever hate anybody, first of all, ever.
No, but you're trying to figure out fit and scheme is the most important thing for most players, but particularly quarterbacks. And I can say this now, particularly after seeing how the Tennessee Titans use him, it's the perfect fit for their scheme. By putting Will Levis in a run-heavy scheme with King Henry behind him, you now have allowed him to use play action, to use RPOs, to use things that are in his wheelhouse, as opposed to, hey, Will, we're going to have you drop back 35 times and do traditional concept reading and those things. You saw how it works. Those explosive plays, being able to come in a run-heavy offense. I mean, we see DeAndre Hopkins utilized and featured in an offense. Well, yeah, that's what you want to see. That's why you get a veteran receiver. Will Levis played really well. And here's the thing. He left a lot of money on the table. I mean, like when he learns to utilize the check down and some of the other things that are available within the concept, he can become a more efficient player, and his efficiency will make this offense more effective. But hats off to him. And I'll say this from a personal standpoint, watching him after the game celebrate with his family. A lot of times I tell people, like when we're talking about draft picks, it's kind of like a soap opera, but with real life characters. I love seeing the joy that he had. And he talked about a dream come true. Man, everybody wishes for that kind of moment for their kid to like realize whatever their dream is, to see it come to fruition. So hats off to him for being able to live it out in front of his family during his regular season debut for the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, and I didn't see the game. Just watched some of the clips and watched some cut-ups. But I did see in the press clippings afterwards that I guess they must have booed Malik Willis when he came on the field, and he addressed it without being asked about it. He addressed it after the game and said, "Hey, that's
love that. I love that.
That was a good sign."
Yeah, I love that because
up for his guy,
the leadership stuff. And see, that's also a big part of the position, huge part of the position, the intangibles.
Mhm.
I love everything about that. Man, if you're the Tennessee Titans, you got to be excited. The trick will be, how does he look next week? Now that people have
Mhm.
seen him play, how does he keep adjusting to what people do to adjust to him? But man, nice start for him.
Yeah, I mean, Buck, I went back and looked at it. He was my 12th player in that draft. So, I mean, he slips the second round. He got unfairly punished, going through that
Mhm.
process, in my opinion. And look, I know we saw the video of him in the draft and how upset he looked, but man, we've seen so many guys channel that and use that. And this is
Fuel.
a thing where, man, given the choice, I sure as heck would rather be the top couple picks of the second round than to be one of the bottom picks of the first round. He's going to get a year earlier to his next contract. And if he plays, if this is one game, if this is what we're in for, man, he's going to be thanking his lucky stars that he fell to the second round, because he's going to get a heck of a lot more money, a heck of a lot faster.
And not only that, he went to a good team. He went to a pretty good team.
Yes.
Like in
Well, a
terms of
good
infrastructure.
organization,
Yeah.
with a good coach.
The infrastructure, the organization, Rand Carthon being their general manager, they'll make sure that he's protected and he's right. It's really good to see. And also, hats off to Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel didn't get the sense that McLeod Willis was going to be the guy. So a year after taking a quarterback in the third round, they go back and take one in the second round.
Yep.
Looks like Mike Vrabel might have been right with his hunches and suspicions.
Take on the Falcons. We thought this was coming for the last few weeks. Desmond Ridder ends up getting benched. Heineke comes in there. He goes 12 of 21, 175 yards and a touchdown. But at least he kind of run around, make some things happen back there.
Yeah, so Desmond Ridder gets dinged up a little bit, gets a little concussion protocol, but it might have conveniently given Arthur Smith an opportunity to put the other guy in there without having to formally bench Desmond Ridder. So we'll see what it looks like. But yeah, like Heineke.
I didn't even know about the concussion, so I hadn't seen that. So that was news to me, because I just was paying attention to the game off the side and saw that he was out.
Yeah, he got banged up or whatever. But like, hey, DJ, it's one of those things where we've seen it. Like sometimes we've all been on the teams, and so a guy gets banged up. You ready to go back in? The coach is like, "Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Oh, let's just see what this. Oh, let's see what this rotation
looks like.
Yeah. And so it might have been that situation. Man, the Falcons and your Arthur Smith, it has to be frustrating because, man, this is a division that is there for the take.
It's right there for him, man.
You can take the division if you just get efficient and consistent play from that position. We'll see how this plays out, but it did open the door for Tyler Heineke to maybe take over that QB1 role.
No doubt. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll knock out some more games right after this. All right, Buck, a battle of the top two quarterbacks in the draft. We had Bryce Young against C.J. Stroud. It was not a pretty offensive game. It's a 15-13 win for the Panthers. They get their first win of the year. Bryce, 22 of 31, 235 and a touchdown. This is a team that wasn't able really to run the ball much in this game. They had 44 rushing yards. So there wasn't a lot other than Bryce. And I think what we've said, hey, be patient with him. There's nothing around him. He's getting better every single week. And they finally find their way to the winner's circle. They get a game-winning field goal as time expired. Adam Thielen is kind of, that's been his guy. Adam Thielen has been somebody that he trusts, and he has 8 grabs in this game. C.J. Stroud, I mean, there wasn't a lot of offense to go around, 140 yards. They just couldn't really get anything going. I mean, their defensive front beat up Bryce. I think that's 6 sacks in that game. But, look, the takeaways to me, there aren't great takeaways from this game. I think both these teams are in their kind of infancy of where they're going to be and what they're going to do. I think the biggest takeaway from me is that Bryce Young has shown to be tough. Somebody who always played on the best team, going back to high school, and then at Alabama, he always had superior players. You don't know how those guys are going to do when they don't have anything else around him. And I'll tell you this, he's getting better and he's competing and he's fighting, which is good to see. Yeah,
he's fighting. So he has the right stuff when it comes to the makeup, and everyone who knows him, who has been around him, senses that he was made of the right stuff, the way he carries himself, the way he carried himself at Alabama, and before that, the way he carried himself in modern day high school, our way. What you like about this, Thomas Brown takes over as the play caller, and it's pretty clear that he was going to make it about the players. And it's funny, you pointed out Adam Thielen being his guy. DJ, one of the reasons why we've talked about this on the podcast, when you have a young quarterback, I want to pair him with a veteran receiver.
Yeah, you've always said that. Yeah.
Because one of the things that happens with young quarterbacks is they're being asked to throw the ball to spots before people get open. And they've never really done that in their life. They've never just thrown it and say, oh, I'm going to trust it. Well, when you have veteran receivers, they're going to get to the spot. they're going to be consistent, reliable, dependable when it comes to, hey, man, you can throw it here. I'm going to be there. We saw Josh Allen game improve with Stephon Diggs. We've seen others improve. We saw Dak Prescott have success when Amari Cooper came over. There is something about that old veteran receiver that allows a young quarterback to mature. We saw Adam Thielen really, really help Bryce Young have a lot of success this weekend.
I'll use an analogy that'll show our age, Buck, is that it's like when we were growing up, there was not, you didn't really have the cell phones. There was not even MapQuest at that point in time. So when you got your license, and it was like for me growing up out here in San Diego, it's like, hey, we're going to go to the beach. So you get your 4 friends, you pile in the car. You're like, all right, who knows how to go?
Who knows how to get there?
Who knows how to get us there? Like nobody. Like you got to have one person in the car that has been to where we're going, or else we're, I don't know. It's the Ralphs. I think you take a left to get. I think that get off. And then yeah. So in other words, Adam Thielen's been to the beach, so he can kind of guide him where he needs to go too.
Yeah, it helps. It helps, and that old savvy receiver can kind of nurture the young quarterback. Good win. Great job for Thomas Brown. I would say even a better move for Frank Wright, showing enough humility to hand the play sheet over to somebody else. Hey, the quarterback, you run the quarterback. I'll do a better job of managing the team, and it helped this team get their first win.
All right, biggest surprise of the week: Broncos. They beat the Chiefs 24-9. Buck.
So many surprises in this game. One, you couldn't have told me that a defense that had 70 hung up on them would then be able to hold the Kansas City Chiefs to single digits. Like, never would have imagined that. I never would have thought that Pat Mahomes would have had struggles against this Broncos defense where he turns the ball over a couple times through the air, never gets this offense going. And they're not even win. Defensively, they played well enough to be able to get it done. I mean, there were no numbers on the Broncos side that suggested, they were able to dominate. We saw Russell Wilson make a handful of plays, but nothing like that. This Kansas City Chiefs offense, what we've talked about is, they're playing complimentary ball. It's a little different. This is the first time, though, that it caught up with them. They don't have the explosive element. And DJ, in this league, it's so hard to win without explosive plays.
Yeah, no, Kelsey has 58 yards. You don't get hit with the right hand, as we say every week. Don't get hit with the right hand. They didn't get hit with the right hand. The left hand couldn't do anything to them. So, I mean, that's going to be the challenge. That's why, I'm curious to see kind of how this Chiefs team kind of figures it out. Andy's so smart. Mahomes is so good. The defense is still, it's a really good defense. They're going to kind of figure their way out to the winner's circle. I think they're a team, in my opinion, I think they're still built to pile up a bunch of wins in the regular season. My question is, when you get into the postseason, and then at that point in time, you're going to see the Cincinnatis, you're going to see the Buffaloes, you're going to see the Miamis. Are they going to have enough? Like, are they just going to have enough firepower for those teams? That's my one concern there with the Chiefs.
That is a huge concern, and it'd be the first time that Steve Spagnuolo for the Chiefs, his unit would be counted on to carry.
They got to carry it 100%.
And so he has always been able to play real aggressive, opportunistic defense where, it doesn't matter. We give up a couple. We're playing for the big play. It changes now when you have an offense that's not as explosive, because now you got to get stops. You have to get 3 and outs. It's a completely different shift. They've been good enough to this point, but can they be a team that finishes defensively, holding teams to 19 points or fewer, because your offense can only generate 23, 24 points each week? That is something that has never been the culture in Kansas City in the Andy Reid era. This would be him being way outside of his comfort zone if they have to go win games like this.
Yeah, and the numbers weren't, sexy for Russell Wilson, but he did enough. 12 and 19, 114 yards, and then obviously the 3 touchdowns were huge. And then you look on the defensive side of the ball, Baron Browning, who's always and when we're talking about get-off numbers, he's always up there amongst the leaders. He's got excellent quickness and burst. Somebody who's played off the ball, can also rush off the edge. Was pretty versatile guy coming out of college and has really developed into a good player. So 2 sacks and a forced fumble for him. A great win for the Broncos over the Chiefs out there in Denver. All right, next game. This was one that was ugly, but yet beautiful. It was the Jets and the Giants in a driving rainstorm. It is a game that the Jets had no business winning with where the game was at the end. They end up winning 13-10, and it was a struggle all day long for offense for both teams. Tyrod Taylor gets knocked out, so you've got the Giants who were playing with their third quarterback. The Jets lose 2 centers in this game, so they're playing with their third center. They've got, obviously Vera Tucker's gone for the year. Tippmann's out. Dwayne Brown's not playing. The Giants are missing offensive linemen. There was so many things working against offense in this game and 2 good defenses. So it's a slog until the end.
Mm-hmm.
The Jets end up getting a miracle. The Giants missed a field goal. They have, 20-something seconds left at the end of the game, 24 seconds left. And then Zach hits a big throw, happens to get an offside penalty on Thibodeau, which was the key to the game because you get the big chunk play and the clock stops when you don't have timeout. Then he hits another one where he escapes pressure and they end up getting in field goal range to send it to overtime. I'll start with this question. In a game in a monsoon where you've got your third string quarterback, the questionable thing to me, the Giants won the toss. Don't you go on defense and try and get a stop, and then we just need a field goal? Then the game's over.
It would appear to be that thing. Sometimes, DJ, sometimes like in the NFL is so different because in the NFL, a lot of times offensive guys like to take the ball for whatever reason.
Yeah.
They want to get it in their hands.
Quarterback in a monsoon.
I know, but normally, man, if you operate under this premise, hey, we're going to defer and KFC. We're always going to kick from the clock. That's a high school thing, right? Because you want the clock at the end. But for this team, in the monsoon, the elements and the conditions that both teams were playing with in terms of injury situation, man, why not kick it to them? Take advantage of, hey, they go 3 and out, we get a shorter field. If we score, we win, game over. Why not take that approach? So it didn't work out for them, but it's one of those things, another thing that will be second guessed for a long time in New York.
I won't go long on this front because I actually did a little 5-minute video. It's on Instagram. It's Move the Sticks. You can find it on there on the Zach Wilson thing because Buck, there's a balance. People replied to that video and said, Orlovsky said something similar. So I actually called Dan and I'm like, dude, it's crazy to me how much criticism this kid takes. And we both said the same thing. We're not looking to put him in the Hall of Fame, but you had a team with a great defense in years past. And you've said, man, if we just had a game manager, just don't turn the ball over. Well, that's what he's doing. He had 1 pick in the last 5 games. I'd be like, he fumbled twice in this game. Yeah, one of those fumbles was under center with his third center, who was on the practice squad as a guard, who's now forced into action in a monsoon. So he fumbled a snap. Okay, he had a sack fumble early in the game. I'll put that on him. He should have held on to that ball. That's 1 fumble. On a day where the Giants had -9 passing yards, he throws for 240, makes 2 big throws at the end to set up the field goal. They had several drop passes. He got pressured 25 times in this game, Buck. What to be expected? You got Dexter Lawrence working against your third string center. I don't know. I just thought he showed some toughness, some grit. He hung in there and he gave that team a chance to win. And I think he's gotten better, and I don't think people want to hear that. He's an easy target to crush and to hate on. I think there's got to be some balance between saying, okay, maybe the second pick, he hasn't been that, obviously. But, man, let's acknowledge the kid is tough and he's getting better. I think that's fair.
DJ, do you believe that Zach Wilson makes the strides that he's made this year without Aaron Rodgers being in the building?
No.
So
I think that was huge.
Yeah, so Aaron Rodgers being able to teach him how to play, being willing to teach him, and not throwing or whatever, but I would say game management, situational awareness.
Yeah.
Do we think that maybe he executes that hard count without Aaron Rodgers being in his ear telling him, hey, man, this might be a chance for us to after a big play to get him? So to me, Aaron Rodgers has been worth his weight in gold despite not really playing for them. He has given Zach Wilson a lot of insight and wisdom that has made him a better player. The toughness that he's displayed, the consistency that he's displayed in terms of just running the offense, I love all of that. And so he deserves a lot of credit for that. I also can understand why Robert Saleh is firmly in Zach Wilson's corner, because if this works out where he does take the baton from Aaron Rodgers, this year having Aaron Rodgers in the building could help him. I'm not saying he's going to be a great player. We can certainly help him be a very, very good player for them in time.
Yep. No, I agree with you. So again, there's a longer video on that if you want to check it out. We've got time for one more game here. Seahawks, Browns. Seahawks, they end up coming back. They beat the Browns 24-20. Geno, a couple touchdowns, couple picks. Kenneth Walker, 8 for 66 on the ground. Charbonnet, 53 yards rushing. Tyler Lockett, 81 yards and a touchdown. And JSN, who I believe was your selection this week, did you pick him in the rookie draft this week?
I think I might have been. I think I might have gone off to Greer. I might have picked JSN.
He got a game-winning 9-yard TD. I did not see that game, so you got to.
No, I think what's telling about this game is Geno Smith says, "Look, this team goes as I go, and I have to understand and take ownership. My play really determines whether we win or lose. I got to play better." And so, in spite of the turnovers and those things, when they needed him to come through and make plays, he made plays. This is a team that still wants to be a run-oriented team. They weren't able to run the ball to their liking, but they had over 100 yards. They were able to kind of set up some things by being able to play action and push the ball down the field, and they got the dub. On the other side, with the Cleveland Browns rushed for 155 yards.
Yeah.
But the reason why they lose, quarterback had 3 turnovers.
Yeah,
can't turn the ball over. Yeah. Can't turn the ball over. And I know everyone and their mom, they're piling on Deshaun Watson and saying, oh, they're better off with PJ Walker, whatever. What we saw yesterday is, look, that's PJ Walker's ceiling. Like, he's not going to be able to be a high-end quarterback game after game after game. Deshaun Watson hasn't played like that in Cleveland, but at some point, what you're hoping is that he is going to be a guy that is not just the manager, that you're not winning in spite of, that eventually you're winning because of. He has to hold up his end of the obligation. Right now, whether it's injuries or whatever, he hasn't been able to. But you saw what the Browns are like without a franchise quarterback. They need to get Deshaun Watson in the building and playing, and then they also need to get him playing well so they can kind of realize their potential as a team.
Yeah, I just think when you're in the AFC right now, you don't have one of those superstars. You can get to the playoffs. I mean, we just came talking about the Jets and what they're trying to do. If the Jets are going to do anything, they're going to need Aaron Rodgers to miraculously come back at the end of the year to try and get through this gauntlet. And that with the Browns, they're going to need the young, in his prime, great Deshaun Watson if they're going to make a run, because you're not getting through Burrow, Mahomes, Josh Allen. You're not getting through all those guys. Trevor Lawrence obviously belongs in that discussion, and I know that's a defensive-laden team, but the Jags find their way into a shootout, Buck. If their defense cracks, the quarterback can win a shootout. You got to have a quarterback that's going to be able to, maybe it's only one game in the playoffs in the AFC. Maybe it's just one time, but you better have that club in your bag is kind of what I'm getting at.
It's the only way you can do it. In the AFC, it's quarterback play. It's quarterback play and pass rush. You better have an A-level quarterback, because it's going to come down to a duel. The 7 teams that make the tournament, we can pretty much guarantee that each of those guys is going to have a franchise, a marquee quarterback. So you got to be able to, if you don't have one, man, you go into the gunfight with a butter knife.
Yep. That's a good way. It's a good way to end it right there. It's a good way to put it, man. We normally touch on the rest of the games briefly. We don't have time to do that today. We will get into some of these other games and these other teams again throughout the week. We have 5 episodes a week, so Monday through Friday, including the video show, which you can catch on Tuesday. That is 4 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday. That's on the NFL Fast channel. But anyways, that's going to do it for us today. I appreciate you guys hanging with us, and we'll see you next time right here on Move the Sticks.